Hi guys, this is a quick video from Mr. Garrett just to talk about a section of biodiversity which is called deforestation. It's an area you might have some links to geography in, and some of you might have some prior knowledge to this. Let's look at this prior knowledge and let's look at the key questions that we're going to talk about in this PowerPoint. So what is it? How are the rates changing? What are the causes of it? And what are the impacts of it? So let's pause for a moment if you wish. You might want to press pause on the button or the video in a second just to talk about in your head, or mull over in your head, or talk about with someone else what would happen if rainforests were destroyed. So once you've done that, it's worth thinking about what would happen to the whole world. You know, go beyond just our local area. What would happen if all rainforests were destroyed? So we'll come back to that probably later on in the PowerPoint, but it's worth just making some notes maybe once you've paused that video and having a little think about all these key questions and also these little pop-up questions. Now the monkey, which is not to resemble me, just so you know, is kind of like a prompt question, giving you opportunities to make some notes about those questions too. It would help you. It will help you with the additional questions that I've attached to this PowerPoint, and support you, especially when we meet on Friday to discuss those key questions. So what is deforestation and why does it occur? Have a go at that, pause it. We will come back to it. We'll link this whole PowerPoint back to that. I'm not going to answer it all straight away. I'm going to talk through, and maybe those key questions that the prompting questions of the monkey, or the key questions that I've given you today will be answered throughout the PowerPoint, and it's worth you taking notes in that shape, in that way. So let's look at what it is. What's the definition? Again, pause the video, write a definition of deforestation. Have a look at what my deforestation definition is, and then see if you can compare. So here's mine. It's when natural forests are cleared through logging or burning. Now there's more to it than that, but this is a nice simple definition that will get you some clarity on what it is. And we must be careful not to sort of misconceive the idea that we just cut down trees for wood. You know, there are lots more reasons. We'll talk about them again, like I said, later in the PowerPoint. And as you go through, you'll answer those questions. So see if you can add anything to that definition, and maybe pause the video and have 3 reasons in your head why you think. Now, I've already told you one. You know, we did it for logging, we did it for wood. There are quite a few more, but you know, you could go 3 reasons why we clear them. Have a go at that. Pause the video. Write some down. When we come back to that later in the PowerPoint, you'll be able to go back to this question and have a look at whether you got it right and add to it if you need to. So we're now going to look at the global rates of deforestation. And the global rates are just showing what happens across the world and how it increases or decreases in the net gain or loss of forests. So we can see South America, mainly the Amazon there, having a significant net loss across the 2 sections of that kind of that bar chart that goes down there. One part of the bar is sort of 1900 to 2000, and the second bar is sort of 2000 onwards, to the most recent data that was taken. So like I said, there's quite a recent change to that in sort of the last 20 years. That's quite interesting, really, that the last 20 years was nearly the same net loss as the last 100 years. So quite a wow factor there in regards to that. But you can see that Europe has experienced a net gain. Africa, again, a very significant decrease, being mainly like the Congo and other sort of rainforests around there. And Asia, again, recently Asia has seen quite a large net gain, actually. Europe has seen a net gain in both the last 100 years and both recently. Why do you think that is? Well, I'm going to talk about that now, really, and just say to you about how Europe have significant policies to regain rainforests, and the main issue there, and I'm going to pick up on one reason or one cause, or an effect of deforestation. And that is that CO2 that goes out into the atmosphere, carbon dioxide. So we have a significant kind of incentive to reduce the CO2 across Europe. You'll notice that from some of the policies in this country when we, you know, get cheaper tax on our car if there's less CO2 pumped out, you know, bike incentives, cycle to work schemes that give you cheaper bikes and things like that. So that all links to the policies across Europe, and the European Union over the last and sort of however many years it's been going, sort of 50 odd 60 years, has also sort of had a significant impact on that too. And you can see in Asia as well, very recently Asia has seen a massive increase in forests that have been planted around. So that's the impact. Australia shows a decrease recently. Why do you think that is? I mean, Australia, forest fires, quite a lot of that. You see that in the news. It's quite interesting as well to see. Now I'm going to go on to them causes that I discussed earlier. So we have kind of 6 real main causes. Pause the video, check your causes, have a look at what I'm now going to show you, and see how many you got right. So let's have a look at that now. Causes: agricultural activities, logging, urbanisation, desertification, mining, forest fires. Now we discussed 1, maybe 2 of them already. You can check the 3 that you put down and see if you want to add some more to that. And now I want to talk to you about the main cause. And here's some data here from the Brazilian Amazon over 5 years. Look at the main cause of deforestation there: cattle ranching. Not logging, not for wood, not agriculture in different ways like farming and what. Cattle ranching. Clearing space to raise cattle for the use of milk or meat. And that's quite an interesting fact, that is, of why the Amazon has cut itself down. And that's obviously due to the increased demand of meat and so on. So what do you think that's had on the greenhouse gases? I mean, we talk about the greenhouse gases, the 2 main ones. This is a key question in an exam, actually. What are the 2 main greenhouse gases? CO2, carbon dioxide, and methane. Methane being one that is released by cattle, and it's quite a significant impact. And obviously the cutting down of trees is now having an effect on the CO2 that's not being absorbed out of the atmosphere. So it's staying in the atmosphere. So let's sort of move on from that and look at our key questions, see how we got on. So what is deforestation? We talked about the definition. Go back through the PowerPoint if you want. Go back through the video. Check it. How have the rates changed? We talked about the rates and the significant rates across Africa and South America being quite a dramatic decrease in forestry, and Europe and Asia showing an increase, which is good there. What are the causes? So we talked about the 6 main causes. Like I said, go back through the video, check you've got the causes in there. We're now going to look at probably the more importantly the impact, because this is quite an important section to this. What is the impact? So we could start off by making a mind map. The effects. Let's look at the effects first of all, and then that will sort of transpire into what is the impact. So you want to pause the video, have a go at a mind map. Quick one, the effects. What's the effect of deforestation? So what's going to happen as a result? Now I've already touched on one of them already, and that was that CO2 in the atmosphere. But you might want to add to that now. There's one there as a clue, a picture as a clue. So pause the video, have a go. Let's look at the monkey as well once you've paused that video. I'll come back to that monkey now. What cause of deforestation made these effects happen? So what cause would have made the effect happen in that result? So would, say for example, cattle farming increase that methane that goes out into the environment? Well, of course it would. That's what we've just talked about. But there are other reasons to the effects. There are other reasons to why them effects have increased. So let's look at, for example, the rainfall. The rainfall is going to have a change. We'll talk about that in the next slide. I don't want to sort of like tell you all about the next slide, and give you too many clues. So remember, pause, have a go at this first, then we'll talk about the next slide, and that will sort of look at what made these effects happen. So here we see, this is just a prompt. I'm not going to play this video, I'm just going to prompt this video, and this is going to give you some ideas for the major effects of deforestation. So let's look at solar energy. What's happening to the plants or the earth with the solar energy? Is it changing? Look at the evaporation, the rainfall. We talked about that a minute ago. I'm not going to give that away yet. I want you to have a go at it. I will talk about that answer in a minute. What about the nutrients in the ground? What nutrients that are washed? What about the leaves that don't fall? What happens to dead leaves? All them sort of thought-provoking things. If we took that forest away, what would and wouldn't happen? What would happen to the ground? What would happen to the sky? What would happen to the surface? What would happen, in around that surface. So have a think about that. Put that in your mind map. I'm now going to flick on to look at those effects. So let's look at those effects now. Increased wildfires, loss of biodiversity, increased atmosphere, CO2, increased flooding, disruption to the water cycle, and increased drought. So we start with the wildfires. You're going to get a lot more dry, more arid areas around the forest, especially if you cut down around it. You're going to have more chance of a wildfire being picked up and happening, which is going to cause then eventually a loss of biodiversity. If you've got a wildfire, if you deforest, you've got a loss of biodiversity. That means, all the living things in that area are going to be destroyed. They'll have no habitat to go to. So you've then obviously got the increased CO2 that's released into the air because it's not being absorbed by those trees, which is a major part of absorption of CO2 across the world. You're going to have that increased flooding because the rainfall isn't going to be used by the plants. It's going to sit into the soil, go down into the water table, and increased flooding around lower areas. You've got a major disruption to the water cycle because that evaporation into precipitation is not going to happen. The water is going to be absorbed again, like I said, into the soil. And some soil where it wash away and it will go down and through the water table, you'll have drought. You'll have very, very little water because there won't be the absorption again into the sky through the evaporation. So there's lots of really good reasons to why the effects happen. Let's go back and look at our key questions again. So what is deforestation? How are the rates of deforestation changing? Do apologise, there's a little grammatical error there. What are the causes of deforestation? And what are the impacts of deforestation? So go back, have a look at these questions, pause the video when you need to, go back through the questions. I hope I've helped. It's difficult to sort of talk about a PowerPoint without actually having any feedback from you guys, but we will have some feedback on Friday. We'll have a little chat about it. There'll be an opportunity for you to comment and get some answers from some teachers. But yeah, these are those key questions. Now, I'd like you to answer the attached document. There's some questions in the attached document. I'll put it in Word format. I'll put it in PDF format so you can access it, print it, do it how you want, really. Get those answers ready for Friday. I'm going to give you the answers on Friday. I'm going to talk through those questions. There's a 6 marker. I want you to have a real go at that 6 marker. Try and break it down into 2 parts, free and a free, and see how you can get the answer to that 6 marker right out in front of you and written out, and have a real go at it. Don't just leave it and think, oh, that's tough, it's 6 marks. Who cares? Have a go. Write some bullet points if you have to. Do what you need to do that works for you. And I hope you get on all right. If you need anything, give us an email. You know where my email is, or comment through the Show My Homework. Wish you all the best. Look forward to seeing as many of you on Friday as possible, and have a good week.